Hello everybody, this is Coach Gamble back with our second installment of our memory verse, Proverbs 14 and 12. Let me read it for you real quick. It says, "There's a way that seems right to a man, but in the end leads to death. But its end is the way of death." All right, let me break this down for you a little bit. Solomon has given us a warning here, but before I go deep into that, I want to say that this is a great verse for our generation, for our time. Well, why do you say that? Well, we live in a day and age right now where people are not very conscious of the fact that there's some things that God likes and there's some things that God doesn't like. There's some things that he agrees with and there's some things that he doesn't agree with. And as young Christians, you have to be super careful not to get yourself caught up in the ideology that our actions and our deeds don't matter. All right, let me help you understand something real quick. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 16, Jesus says that you will recognize my disciples by the fruit they bear or the things they do. So what is he trying to say? He's trying to say that my disciples or my disciplined followers carry themselves in a certain way. There are certain things they do and certain things they don't do. Now again, in our era, there are some people who really believe that your heart is the only thing that matters in terms of your relationship to God. And that's kind of like a half-truth, because your heart is most important and your do's and don'ts cannot earn you salvation. But your do's and don'ts are important to God at the same time. How do I know that? Well, he just said it in Matthew chapter 7. You will know my disciplined followers by what they do. You understand what I'm saying? You cannot allow yourself to get caught up feeling like I can do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it. And so you got to be very careful with this. All right? Jesus also says in another portion, he says, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. In other words, you'll do what I ask you to do. So if do's and don'ts don't matter to him, why is he saying these things? Now, what I just did to understand Proverbs 14 and 12 is I cross-referenced. I used other verses to help me understand this particular verse. So Solomon is saying you got to be really, really careful here. There's some things that people feel is right to do, but really isn't right to do. In the end, it's not going to lead you to a good place. And I need you to be aware of that. You cannot get caught up following the culture. You cannot get caught up following fads and trends and think that because a lot of people are doing it, that God agrees with it. For example, let's just talk about music. Is all music good? Or is there some music that God is like, I'm not sure you should be listening to? For example, in Ephesians 4 and 29, it says this, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs. Well, unwholesome is a word that a lot of songs struggle with. So is it okay? Is it just music? Is it just lyrics and God is okay with it? Is there an exception? Did he say, don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth unless it's in a song? Of course, he didn't say that. And so we have to be very wise. We have to be conscious of what we're doing. No matter what the culture is saying, we got to remember there are some things that people think is right to do, but in the end leads me to a bad place. You got to be very conscious of that. Now, how do you apply this verse to your life? Well, you got to start comparing the things that you see people do and things that you might be interested in doing to God's word. What does he say? God has a standard, and he would love for us to do the very best we can to live up to that standard. For example, he says, be holy for I am holy. Well, sometimes we make mistakes, so we ask God for forgiveness, and he's rich in grace and mercy, so he forgives us. But the Apostle Paul says, I do not frustrate the grace of God. In other words, I'm not disobeying God on purpose just because I know he'll forgive me. That doesn't make any sense. Let our mistakes be real mistakes, but let's not willingly go against God's standard and think that it's okay. There's a way that seems right to a man, but in the end leads to death. Be wise about what you follow and get yourself involved with. As always, you need to be able to quote this verse, explain the verse, and know how you would apply it to your life. God bless you. We'll talk to you soon.